We are the group 0568, and we have three crew members, Noah, DG, and Wade. For this assignment, we have Noah doing Makefile and Enhancement, DG doing Comeback, which is the attack, power move and speak, and the process, for example, messaging and comments. And me doing the blocking, matching, and the selecting an opponent features.
Hello, this is Reggie. First, I'll be showing you the Makefile, and as you can see here, here's the port variable. And then as you can see, this displays normally. And then for the normal attack, you can see that you hit like this, and it displays normally on both sides as like the AAA port. First, I'll be using a power move. As you can see, the power move also subtracts correctly, and the power move also decreases from 2 to 1. And as you can see again, nothing happens and nothing happens. First, we start with handle client, which checks using booleans if they are in a match and if it is their turn. If it is, we go to the process command using P and the top player of the stack. So then we go to process command and we basically just check the inputs and see that if it's A or P, and else is for the speaking. So if it's A or P, so the attack type is a boolean, which 0 for normal attack and 1 for power move. And then either way, we go to the deal damage function with the same variables and the new attack type. So now we go to the deal damage function. This is for Noah's part, so I'll be skipping that. So if it's a normal attack, then we print it, or again, this is for Noah's part. It can be skipped if they take too long. So then we write it down, and well, to be exact, we print it to the other player, and then print it out, and then this prints out from the other console to the other player, and then we actually do the combat, subtract the combat HP by the damage, and then if they die, then it prints out this gives out you win or your no match, and then it prints out awaiting next opponent. So and then we find another opponent. So if it's a power move, we first multiply the attack damage by 3, and then it's basically the same thing where the player who started the attack gets this print, and then the player who receives the attack gets this print. And then we do the subtraction, and if the player dies, then this is, I know that's very different, but I don't think the concept of printouts matter that much. But anyways, so, and then we set the match to false again. Sorry, I forgot to explain in the other one, but basically in the normal attack, but basically we set the match to false, and then we wait for another opponent, and then after we find another opponent, we print out the stats again, and it goes, and then it returns the deal damage to the process command, which I've shown earlier. Which the process command basically takes returns the attack damage to the handle client, and handle client returns to the main function, which is over here. Basically the results this is for the speak function, or this is for the if there's an error occurred, and then we break the loop and we can go to the next player's turn. So first we can type speak, and we can write any random thing, and then you can attack, and then as you can see, Rob tells you takes a break to tell you hello, so it shows on the opponent's buffer, and this player can also speak. And then as you can see, this transferred to the opponent as well. And then if it's too long, so for the sake of it, just as you can see, that if the message is bigger than the message room, then we just say buffer is full. For the code walkthrough, so first we go to handle client and make sure that they're in the match and it is their turn. Then we go to process command. So then we read the command. If it's S, we go over here, and then we set up the buffer to make room for the message. And then we print out the speak and let them print to the right to the outbuff, and set the key variable to is speaking for another process later on. So to the next process, we go to process message. So now that we go to process message, first, as I mentioned before, there's a limit. Normally it's supposed to be 256. I showed it in the example to be 10 just for convenience. So this while loop, this smaller while loop is for input every single character, so that it reads one character at a time. And if it has more than 256 characters, so and since it adds the message length for by 1 for every single character, and if it's more than 256, which is bigger than the room, then we forcefully exit, and if not, then we add a null terminator string. So if we check that our name is not there, then we can set the string, whatever the string is, to the name, which first we add make sure that it doesn't have a new line, so we double make sure that it changes to 0, a null terminator, and then we copy the buffer to the name and return the value of 1 for our functions. So if we're sending a message, so first we print out the outbuff, which we declared earlier over here, somewhere over here, and then basically we write to the opponent that we're currently facing, and we write to the opponent's file descriptor, and we return a value of 2. So after we return a value of 2, after skipping a few functions because for the sake of convenience, so what happens is that the client, if we're speaking, then handle client returns 2 as well. And while the result is 2, we print the stats and options, and then call the client again to repeat the process again of the message so that you can keep entering different, keep speaking, although, that's basically it for...
Hi, my name is Wei, and I will be showing the matching and login feature of our program. So first of all, we can see that when we log into our program, we are asked for our name. So when we enter our name, we can show that there are tags showing we are awaiting our opponent and that we have joined the arena. And as for the other person, it also shows that the other person has entered the arena and we are engaging with that person. And at this point, we can really attack and power attack the opponent. Yeah. So let's move on to our code walkthrough. For the login feature, we first have the add client method in our program, which is malloking a structure for the client to store in and initialize it with the turn, is turn, next, and name, and comeback, and so on features. And we are be able to print the intro message, which is what is your name, to the terminal to ask our client for their name. And finally, we add the client to the client list at the bottom of the program. In the middle of the process managing feature, we read the input name from the client and store it into a buffer and assign to a message and assign to a name. And that is how we get the actual matching. We have the struct name match for each client, which stores their stats such as are they in a match or not, what is their hit point, and what is their power move, the number of their power move, as well as the pointer to the client that is next. Let's try to break our system. First, let's try to exit on one client and see what happens. As you can see, I exit on one client in, and the other client has shown that the other player is dropped, and therefore you win, and are waiting for next. What happens if a client tries to speak when it's not their turn? As you can see on this end, it is not this client's turn. So when I type anything, hit enter, anything, it won't show up in other client's end because it is not his turn and he's not using the speaking method.
Hello, so the enhancement that we did was we added a timer that will skip a player's move if they take too long to choose an action. The timer is set to 10 seconds, and here is how we implemented it. On line 51 in match, we added a field for the turn start time. This tracks when we start the clock, basically when a turn starts. When is a turn started? A turn is started when we print the options in options. Here, so here we start the time in that field. And then when do we end the time is in process command. Here, so now we check the new time with get time of day, and we say int skip, this is a flag, and if the elapsed is greater than 30 seconds, sorry, this is 30 seconds, then we are going to skip the turn and set the flag to 1. And that is a field for our deal damage function, skipped, so this is a true or false. And then in deal damage, you can see here, if skipped, we set attack damage to 0, and if skipped, we send a special print message, and this is for the normal attack. And then also in the power moves here, we do the same deal. We set power damage to 0, and we send a special message, and that is our enhancement.
Here I am going to demonstrate the dropping of clients working well. As you can see, I have 3 terminals running. Let's say this is Bob, this is Jeff, and now they're in a battle. And let's say Jeff wants to disconnect. Now, Jeff dropped, you win, waiting for client, and this is all good. As you can see, this is all working fine. And we reconnect. Let's say this is Jeff, whoops, Jeff 2. You get back into the fight, and let's say this guy wants to quit, Bob. And as you can see, it all works. It all works over here. Okay, so let's go over our disconnecting logic. We start in main, where we have our select call. Here the server starts the main functions event loop, where select monitors all client socket activity. When we detect a socket event, the server determines if it's a disconnection in handle client. This is signaled by the function returning -1. This leads to removing the client from the server and This leads to removing the client from the server's monitoring and closing their socket. Like here. Here. Next, we will go to handle client to look at that logic. In handle client, disconnection detection hinges on the outcome of process message. If the function, here, let me show you, process message, here. If the socket is closed, we remove the client, here. Next, I'll show you the remove client function. Here, a remove client executes the removal of a disconnected client. If the client was engaged in a match with their opponent, we immediately let them know they won. With this message here. After the announcement, all players are notified about the disconnection using broadcast in here. Right here. And finally, the client status structure is freed and removed from the linked list using free. Here I will demonstrate select working so we can have multiple matches. So here is Bob, here is Jeff, here is them doing stuff, and then we will add some new clients here. So this is Tom. Let's see, he joins. This is Noah. As you can see, Noah and Tom are playing, and then if we let him go, then we go back to our original here, and everything works. As you can see, when you drop, this was still going on. Here is the walkthrough for select. So we're going to go to main. The core loop of our server revolves around select. Initially, we prepare a set of file descriptors using fd0. We use a set of file descriptors, setting it to 0, and initialize the set to the empty set and add our server's listening socket. As we enter the main loop with our set all set, we modify the set to indicate which file descriptors are ready. Then we call select, passing our file descriptor with our file descriptor set with n ready equals to select. We don't use a timeout here, which means select will block indefinitely until there is activity on one of the file descriptors. If select indicates activity, we first check if it's on the listening socket with fd is set here, signifying a new client connection. If so, we accept the connection with client fd and add the new client socket to our file descriptor set using fd set, client fd, and all set, and we adjust our max fd if necessary. Next, we iterate over all the possible file descriptors here. For each that is set indicated by if set here, if fd is set, we search our linked list of clients to find the matching client structure. If we find a match, we handle the client's request with int result is equal to handle client. This could, with int result is equal to handle client. Handle client involves reading a message, processing a command, or removing a client with head remove client.